Let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Jack Drees. And Jack Drees writes, "It's the battle of the century. Cinemas versus Universal. Turns out that Regal is now enforcing similar policies to AMC in response to Universal's recent ideas of putting their movies out at home around the same time as in theaters, which diminishes the sacred theatrical window. Could this situation even get bigger? Will it die off fast? What are your thoughts?" All right, thanks for saying that in, Jack. And yes, it's starting to get complicated. You know, I said this the other day. I said this battle between Universal and AMC could very quickly become a World War I situation where two countries get into it and all of a sudden 16 other entities got drawn into it and then all of a sudden became a world war. It could happen. Well, guess what? Regal's in it now too. Regal and their parent company that owns them, Cineworld, have come out and they are taking a similar position now to AMC. Now, to set the context here, of course, when the lockdown started to happen and theaters were having to shut down, studios had to figure out what they were going to do with their movies. Distributors had to figure out what to do. And NATO, that is the North American theater owners, that's all the movie theaters. So AMC, Regal, Cinemark, all the movie theaters. Okay, that's NATO. The studios came to NATO and sat down and went, okay, we need to figure out how we're going to survive here. We've got certain movies that we have nowhere to put other than the dates they were supposed to be on. They're sitting there collecting dust. We are in a little bit of trouble here. What are we going to do? And together with the theater owners, they figured it out and they talked it through and came up with stuff because they're partners. They're partners. They've been partners for decades and they make a lot of money off of each other. However, Universal decided to be the dick in the room. And Universal decided, without so much as a phone call to the movie theaters, to just make an announcement, we're dropping our movie on VOD right here. This obviously rubbed their theatrical partners the wrong way, in response to which the head of NATO, the head of the North American theater owners, said the words and made the statement, "We will not forget this." Okay, now we fast forward a bit. So things are tense. There's a bit of tension here. A little bit of tension going on in the room. Not sexual tension, just tension. Just bad tension. So then Jeff Shell, who is the CEO of Universal, he comes out and says that moving forward, we're going to be looking at releasing movies in theaters and on VOD, which is something that is a big no-no. That's something that does not fly with movie theaters. Now, it's important to understand this, okay? Because I'm reading all these comments from people online that are clearly not getting this. This is of supreme importance to understand. If you get nothing else out of this, understand this point. The rule with movie theaters, AMC, Regal, Cinemark, all of them, that says we will not play movies on our screens that you try to release on home video at the same time. That's not a brand new rule. That's not new. That's not something AMC just came up with because of what Universal just said. This is a rule that has been around with the movie theaters for decades. It was there when I was at AMC, and I remember when I was at AMC, there was a little bit of a tussle going on with an independent distributor that wanted to put their films on AMC screens and release it on VOD, and AMC said, no, we don't do that. None of the major theater chains do that. That's a rule that we have had forever because it protects our own interests, and we need to protect ourselves. So if you want to put a film in VOD, you go ahead and do it, but don't expect us to put your movie in our theaters if you're going to do it at the same time. This is not a brand new thing. This wasn't a reaction from AMC or Regal or any of the movie theater chains. This has been the understood rule forever. It's been the understood rule forever. So Jeff Shell, the CEO of Universal, comes out and says, we're looking at releasing movies in theater and VOD at the same time. To which AMC was the first to come out and said, not at AMC or not. We will not play any of your movies that takes that tactic. None. You try to take that tactic, we're not playing any of your movies. Then Jeff Shell kind of backtracked what he said and said, no, you misunderstood what we said. They didn't misunderstand what they said. They said, you misunderstood what we said. No, I just meant that we're going to release, some films in theaters, and then we might release some films in VOD, which was disingenuous because now another comment from Jeff Shell just came out and said, well, what I mean is we're going to try having some movies that we put out on theater and VOD at the same time. So he's changed his story 3 frickin' times in 72 hours. But let's put that aside for a second. We talked at length yesterday about the fact that AMC has stood up to Universal and said, no, you're not going to screw us over. Because you putting out video on home video and in the theater at the same time is screwing over theaters, and we're not going to just stand for that. We're going to stand up for ourselves. And we're saying no. And now I told you guys, I said on the show yesterday that I guarantee you Regal won't do it either. And now Regal has come out and they have chimed in as well. And they are saying, sorry, Universal, you try to pull this, those movies are not playing on our screens. As a matter of fact, the head guy of Cineworld, which is the company that also owns Regal, said in a story, he retold a story that he was just talking to the chairman of Comcast, which owns Universal, and says, your guys say really nice things, but it doesn't mean anything if we can't trust you. It's like, holy crap, them's are fighting words. Cineworld also went on, again, the company that owns Regal, Cineworld also went on to say the following. Universal unilaterally chose to break our understanding and our agreements and did so at the height of the COVID-19 crisis when our businesses were closed. More than 35,000 employees are at home and when we do not yet have a clear date for the reopening of our cinemas. Cineworld's roots go back 90 years in the industry and it was always open to showing any movie as long as the rules were kept and not changed by one-sided moves. Today, we make it clear again that we will not be showing movies that fail to respect the windows as it does not make any economic sense for us. So Regal has now come out and also laid down the hammer, and you can fully expect in the coming days to see Cinemark, to see a bunch of the other Landmark, to see a bunch of the other theater chains are also going to come out and follow, and you're going to see NATO is going to be basically towing this line. This is the battle that they find themselves in now. And it's a tricky one, and it's sticky, and it's all this kind of stuff. And I don't, now look, another important thing to keep in mind here is this, is that studios forever have always picked some of their movies to put straight to home video release. That's always, Toy Story 2 was originally meant to be destined for home video release. And so then they went, oh my God, this movie's pretty good. And now it's 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. But it was originally intended. Studios have always put out movies that were intended just for home video release. If they've got movies they want to put on home video release, they can. What is clear here, though, if it wasn't already clear before, Aaron, is that Universal is not going to be able to do this with any of their significant movies. They are not going to do this with any of their significant movies. Because can you imagine if they try to put out a Fast and the Furious and, AMC, Regal, all the other major chains said, have fun.
Yeah.
Have fun of instead of having a $1 billion film, having a $200 million film. Mm-hmm. Have fun. I mean, I think this puts Universal in a spot where they realize they can't do this, and I don't think you're going to see them try, and I think you will see them over the next little while back off, because if they try to release them at the same time, the theaters are saying, no, we're not going to let you screw us over. We're not going to go for this, and we're standing firm on it. And I think you're going to see that happen. I don't know, Aaron, this is a huge drama, and a lot of sides to it, because also in the midst of the COVID-19 thing, everybody's just trying to figure out how do we survive. Yeah. And you can't, including Universal, you can't blame anybody for just trying to figure out how do we survive. But there's smart ways of doing it and not smart ways. But at its core, that's what they're trying to do. It's a huge situation, Aaron, but as you look at it, how do you see it right now?
Well, first of all, who is the publicist for Universal right now? Whoever you are, I hate to say it, you're fucking up. Like, first of all, this is going on as if it's like a Cardi B, Nicki Minaj Twitter feud or something. Why are these two people not just getting on the phone? The head of NATO and Jeff Snell need to get on the phone with one another, figure it out, and go, okay, this is how we're going to move forward with this, instead of going back and forth in headlines and, these little threats and digs. It just doesn't make any sense. And the head of Cinemark was right. It doesn't make sense financially, economically for the theaters, but it also doesn't make sense economically for Universal. Like, you're ultimately going to lose money because let's face it, people are lazy. I'm lazy. Like if it's not a movie that I need to see in a theater, like I need to see a war movie in a theater. I need to see a grand, operatic musical in a theater. But if it's a Universal film like Stuber, for example, I did not go see Stuber in the theater. Tom just said to me last night, hey, did you know that Stuber is now on whatever streaming? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll turn it on. I'll check it out. That's how most movies are. So unless Universal plans on releasing only massive, epic, blockbuster, multi-million-dollar films, they're just not going to be able to reap the benefits. It just doesn't even make any sense why he would say, oh, we're going to do both at the same time. When most people, especially after this experience, there's always going to be theaters. There's never going to be a time where we don't have theaters. I mean, when I was a journalism major in college, decades ago, many, many decades ago. And I remember when they were talking, my teachers were saying, oh, well, this internet thing, it's really going to mess up, newspapers are going to be obliterated. And here we are, it's 2020, we still have newspapers. However, the number of newspapers that we actually see people using is greatly, greatly diminished. And that's what's going to happen to theaters. There will always be theaters, but if you offer people the opportunity to sit in their dirty pajamas on their couch and like pause and stop and eat their own popcorn that they make in their kitchen that doesn't cost $18 a bucket, people are going to choose to stay home. And so it doesn't make economic sense for Jeff Snell. I think that he needs to sit down with Universal's publicist, the new one, after they fired the one that's been working for the last 3 days, figure out whatever their tagline needs to be, whatever their headline needs to be moving forward, and then get on the phone with NATO and say, okay, this is what we're going to work out, and offer an apology. You know what? I spoke out of turn. I thought maybe this was going to be a good idea. I hear the theaters loud and clear, and we are going to keep our commitment and keep our promise and keep with history, and by honoring this 3-month window.
I just never understood why they didn't do that initially. Like, just come out and say, you know what? Like when the theaters came out and said, you guys just sandbagged us.
Yeah.
Like you just literally clocked us across the back of the head with the bat. You snuck up on us. We had no idea. All it would have taken is to go, you know what? We were so wrapped up in trying to navigate this unprecedented circumstance at Universal. We overlooked that. And you're right.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have done that. It's all good. But you're absolutely right, Aaron. The theaters need the studios. Look, Universal has what? 16% market share? 16% market share?
Sure. Okay.
Disney, they are not. But still, the theaters need every single studio that they can. Universal needs the theaters. I never understand why these bodies try to negotiate or debate via headlines. I've got a long-standing saying on my show is that the reason I don't get involved in shit like this is because, listen, the only thing that happens when you get in a shit slinging contest is that everybody ends up smelling like shit.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that can happen. And I think this is not good for anybody. They've got to figure this out. There's always going to be room for movies that do go straight to VOD. There's always going to be a need for movies that go straight to theaters. Mm-hmm. But to try to undercut each other and try to take your partner of decades down is not going to be working for anybody. And now all the theaters are starting to stand together. And meanwhile, none of the other studios are coming to Universal's defense because all the other studios understand, hey, listen, Universal, this system works for us. We're making money hand over fist in this business, largely thanks to the theaters. Mm-hmm. And I know it's expensive, but it's made us all rich. And you're trying to rock the boat. Mm-hmm. And that's why you're seeing all the theaters get together now and no other studio is coming to Universal's defense in this. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this comes out.
Also, what's going to happen is Universal, maybe we wouldn't, if they were to move forward with this, we wouldn't see the shift in content immediately. It would take a few years, but ultimately, if as a filmmaker, you know that your film will be released in both and will ultimately make less money. If you are an up and coming Michael Bay sort where you want to make the big explosive pictures that belong in theaters that are going to make hundreds of millions of dollars worldwide, you go, well, maybe I don't want Universal to be my home for my for this project. Maybe I want to go over here. Now I understand that studios own usually the rights and the licensing to some of these bigger ones, but it would definitely affect their content moving forward.
Yeah, actually, that's a part I hadn't even thought about, that this could affect their standing with a lot of creators who are like, so if I work with you, I might be on the outs at the movie theaters.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's an interesting situation that's constantly evolving. And you know what? Look, I want to make sure it doesn't sound like I'm getting down too hard on Universal or anybody involved, including AMC or Regal, because there is no standard operating procedure here. We talk about all this time during this whole pandemic lockdown. It's a game that there's no rule book for. This is a game that there is no existing rule book for, and everybody's just trying to figure it out. They just need to do it smart. So I don't know, guys, what do you think about Regal now weighing in on this and getting involved too? Jump down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. And I'm sure